tell me a story.
I think it's easy to forget that sexually charged, bold, provocative girl groups are not a recent invention, and here, as with many aspects of the music business, Prince was very much leading a new wave of erotic fun funk fusion. I think actually that the word fun is certainly a key aspect of what Prince, here credited as the Star Company, was driving towards. Amongst the liberated confidence, the sultry swagger and the bravado is a lot of playful fun. But before we dive in, let's take a quick trip to remind ourselves just how Vanity 6 was born. Prince was always interested in not only creating his own persona, but a whole movement, an entire coterie of acts that would progress to become internationally known as the Minneapolis Sound. Part of this was inspired by the movie The Idolmaker, in which a producer creates a series of hugely popular acts, which, rather like in Prince's case, often became involved in one-upmanship and rivalry. Just ask Morris Day in The Time. Prince originally intended to create an all-female singing group called The Hookers. Obviously at this time, between 1981 and 1982, Prince didn't have much on. Just the Rolling Stones gig, the Controversy tour, the Time second album, the 1999 album, and a number of other projects. However, he brought together his personal assistant Jamie Shoup, girlfriend Susan Moonsey, and toyed with the idea of including Moonsey's sister Loreen. Prince was still working through these ideas when the Controversy tour demanded his focus, but as fate would have it, two worlds collided and Prince met Denise Matthews, whom many saw as Prince's female equivalent. Bold, beautiful and spirited, Denise was asked to join the group using the name Vagina, which she managed to sidestep, and instead Prince and Denise agreed on naming her Vanity. It was at this time that Brenda Bennett, who was the wife of famous set designer Roy Bennett, who provided so much of Prince's legendary stage sets, also joined the group, and Jamie Shoup and Moonsey's sister bade their farewell. The newly formed group now had a great mix of personalities. Vanity was strong, confident, sexual and fearless. Brenda had, by most onlookers' accounts, the best voice and a real tough girl persona. Susan was the quieter, more innocent type. Prince wrote all but one of the tracks for their one and only album, with Des Dickerson crafting the song He's So Dull. Prince also decided to discard a few songs formerly considered for the project, including Jealous Girl, Pizza and I Need a Man. Prince promoted Vanity 6 in a rather powerful way by making them part of his Triple Threat 1999 tour, which saw Prince and the Revolution, The Time and Vanity 6 share a stage. Whilst the overtly sexual treatment of the tracks meant the appeal of Vanity 6 might not ever become mainstream, there was a certain amount of success and promotion. Videos were created, most notably for the visually and literally stripped down Nasty Girl and the somewhat more extravagant Drive Me Wild. Indeed, Nasty Girl became a bit of a club hit and had a whole other life, which we'll get to shortly. Sadly, this came to be Vanity 6's sole album due to Vanity's departure from the Purple Rain project, and Vanity 6 was refashioned into Apollonia 6. Vanity became Denise once more, and later converted to Christianity and sadly passed shortly before Prince. One of Prince's last concerts, he reflected upon Denise. She loved me for the artist I was. I loved her for the artist she was trying to be. Let's get nasty with this fascinating album. Every Prince-related album has a monster jam, an inescapable earworm that burrows to the funk depths of your mind. Nasty Girl is an absolute classic, the kind of song that seduces you within moments. I first heard the track before I was ever introduced to the world of Prince in the movie Beverly Hills Cop, where the irresistible lure of the melody was clearly apparent. Prince clearly thought a great deal of the track, later sampling it heavily in a remix of Hot With You, titled the Nasty Girl Remix. It has also been sampled by many other artists with a fair degree of success. It even featured on the Spike Lee film Girl 6, for which Prince supplied a number of his catalogue tracks alongside new music. The track is pure frenetic energy and the kind of flowing, seemingly effortless lyric writing that appears so fully natural. Within 2 verses, Vanity makes it clear what she's looking for. I'm looking for a man to love me like I've never been loved before. I'm looking for a man that'll do it anywhere, even on the limousine floor. Vanity's vocal is perfectly suited to this upbeat Minneapolis synth funk, and within a minute the song strides into its greatest facet, the remarkable hook line. 'Cause tonight, living in a fantasy, in my own little nasty world. Tonight, don't you want to come with me? Do you think I'm a nasty girl? The humour is also apparent with talk of sailors with water on the brain, and then Vanity's rather explicit and forthright admission that she requires 7 inches or more. Musically, there is a great breakdown part where Vanity demands a change of groove, and an Eastern choir-like vibe enters the fray, with a motif that would reappear in some shades in songs like The Max. Vanity also adds her moans and murmurs alongside some great echoing backing vocals by the group, which speak straight like whispers into your ear. The humour appears when towards the end of the track Vanity berates her lover. Is that it? Wake me when you're done. I guess you'll be the only one having fun. This album could not have got off to a better start. An addictive groove, pure Minneapolis, and a statement of intent for all Prince wanted Vanity 6 to signify and embrace. Too funky. This was the obvious choice for the album's first single.
This second track, if somewhat uneventful, does have some interesting parts. Musically it reminds me of tracks like Horny Toad and the later far superior Delirious, although here it's at a slightly slower tempo than those tracks. It's full of cool little synth effects, especially a really rubbery springy one that comes in at the end of each verse. Also midway through the track, and again at the end, we have the sound of a thunderstorm and pouring rain, as if to symbolise things are getting soaking wet here. Also around the 3 minutes 20 mark, the bass suddenly comes over the top of all the other instruments, just for a couple of seconds, which is really interesting. Given the title of this track, you may think lyrically it's going to be pretty racy and close to the mark, but actually it's fairly tame stuff. Although the first line could be interpreted in a different way, depending on the type of mind you have. My lips start shaking when I see him walking down the street. There is also another lyric that is, shall we say, suggestive. I know he could deliver the dam to my river any time. This is all about Vanity chasing her school crush, the star of her wet dreams. Of all the boys at school, he's the one I want to meet. If he combs his hair, all my girlfriends start to scream. There isn't much else to the lyrics, and the track is basically done at just over the 2 minute mark. The final 2 minutes is just a repeat of the chorus over and over, and really the track would have benefited by being a minute shorter. All in all, a catchy, if unremarkable, synth jam.
I've never been driven, baby, you're the first. Come on, baby, drive me wild.
At just 2 minutes 31 seconds in length, and the B-side to the Nasty Girl single, Drive Me Wild also managed to later on secure its own release as an A-side. The video is pure hilarity, with half of Paisley Park joining Vanity 6 for an all-out extravaganza. Even Big Chick Huntsbury gets his moment in the spotlight, alongside the strangest collections of characters you'll ever see. As is almost always true, please seek out the full extended version for your full slice of funk, as this runs to a more substantial 7 minutes plus. However, that said, sometimes Prince's shortest tracks are the most memorable, and this is a pretty cool example. This is an early incarnation of Prince toying with the automobile as a lover motif that blew up the world when Little Red Corvette was released. It's certainly worth noting that Prince was working on the extended version of Drive Me Wild at the same time as the extended version of Little Red Corvette. The first verse makes the car analogy quite clear. Look at me, I'm a Cadillac, I'm a brand new convertible child. I've never been driven, baby, you're the first. Come on, baby, drive me wild. Now lyrically, this is a very basic track and nowhere close to the more nuanced, multi-meaning allusions on Little Red Corvette, but that's not the thrust or the purpose of this jam. This is not a song to reflect deeply about, but to throw back your shoulders and enjoy. A true head-bobbing example of the genre. The staccato and almost arcade machine space-age effects give the track a pulsing bounciness, and the little chiming keyboard runs at another level. What actually makes this track stand out the most is the lead vocal by Susan Moonsey, which is an interesting aspect of Vanity 6 in that all three members took their turn on lead vocals. Here Susan's voice is not as strong or strident as Vanity's, but actually plays very much into her coy, coquettish persona, which wraps into the "I've never been driven" lyric. The vocals are soft and delicate and add a genuinely different dimension to the project. There's a little bit of similarity to Makeup with the abrupt stop-start staccato treatment of the song, and the short version simply flies by all too quickly.
He's so dull, drives a 63 Rambler. He's so dull, still living with his mom.
He's So Dull. The second shortest track on the album, albeit by 1 second, coming in at 2 minutes and 32, and the only track on the album not written by Prince. He's So Dull was written by Des Dickerson, but features Prince on most of the instruments. The track has a pop rock new wave feel and wouldn't sound out of place on a Blondie album.
He's always calling on the telephone. He won't go out without a chaperone. 'Cause he's so...
Musically it's fairly straightforward, with no real outstanding moments to speak of. You have the guitars, keyboards, drums and sampled hand claps that would be a staple of a lot of the late 1980s dance music to come. The chorus is a bit of an earworm and will have you humming it to yourself after a few listens. The lyrics deal with Vanity putting down a wannabe boyfriend for being so dull. He's so dull, drives a 63 Rambler. He's so dull, still living with his mother. He's so dull and he won't get anywhere with me. This type of put-down song is something that would be seen again in the 90s with songs like TLC's No Scrubs, having a dig at guys still living with their mothers, amongst other things. Here Vanity goes on to say, he's always reading science magazines and he doesn't even wear blue jeans. Why can't he understand what all this means to me? As the track fades out, there is this noise and a man's voice, and I really couldn't tell what it was meant to be. That is until I saw the video for the track. It is actually the sound of Vanity throwing this guy down a flight of stairs. I guess he shouldn't have been so dull.
How we gonna get to the party?
Call up Jimmy, he's got a car.
And what if a girl answers?
Hang up.
Hang up nothing. Jimmy says I was his girl.
Honey, don't you know?
If a Girl Answers, Don't Hang Up was co-written by Prince and Terry Lewis and is the longest track on the album and is by far the most hilarious and humour-filled track. The conversation between Vanity, Brenda and Prince, using his Jamie Starr voice pretending to be a woman, is almost indescribable. Vanity makes the call and her and Prince trade insults within the tight funk of the groove and chicken grease guitar. To give you a little taste of the high-level philosophical debate to be had, here's an example. Tramp, I'm dating your dad. Oh, he died about 7 years back. Now ain't that just too bad? Well, that's how I like him. Tall, stiff and ready. That's positively more than I can say for dead Jimmy. That's because he was swallowing vitamin E. Now he's swallowing me. Oh, you mean you were swallowing him? Why don't you just tie a mattress to your back? What can you say? Theirs is clearly a real comedic back and forth between Vanity and Prince, and around halfway through Brenda grabs the phone for a rap section, which continues in the same vein. You see, the only kind of man that would play with you is one that plays with himself. None of my friends could stand the sight of you, much less the smell.
It's gone too far. Here, give me the phone. Hey, tramp, take a bath and puke. What's more, you can kiss where the sun don't shine. If that don't work, we can do.
After 2 minutes 45, the track is effectively over and then extends out into a laid-back jam of synths, chicken grease and telephones ringing and occasional chorus refrains. This does slow the track's energy a great deal and owes a large nod to some of Prince's late 70s creative work.
Blush, eyeliner, hush, sing what you made me do.
Makeup. This track was originally recorded in 1981 for Prince's first incarnation of his all-girl group, then called The Hookers. Featuring Prince's assistant at the time, Jamie Shoup, on lyrics, along with Brenda Bennett and Susan Moonsey. Then after Vanity joined and the group became Vanity 6, Vanity and Brenda Bennett recorded vocal overdubs on the track in the spring of 1982. The track is a real oddity and musically is synth-heavy with a real Kraftwerk and Gary Newman sound. You get the feeling that Prince came up with this electronic groove just to see what he could do on the synths, and that maybe the lyrics were a bit of an afterthought. The lyrics literally are about Vanity applying makeup to look good for her man. Blush, eyeliner, hush, see what you made me do. Base, mascara, erase, I wanna look good for you. The vocals are heavily reverbed, and the whole track feels extremely heavy and claustrophobic as the synths pulsate the lead line over and over. There is also early use of the Linn drum machine, which opens the track with the hi-hat cymbal and a thumping beat. It's certainly an odd track, and one which was made even more so with Prince's own demo guide track released on the Originals in 2019, which sees Prince singing the vocals while applying makeup. All in all, an interesting but strange track, which may have been better off as an instrumental.
Bite the beat. Bite the beat. Come on, honey, bite the beat.
Bite the Beat sees the first published work of Jesse Johnson providing the music, whilst Prince wrote the lyrics, which are credited to Brenda Bennett. It also owes a real sisterhood to the earlier track Drive Me Wild in its repeating refrains, but musically has a much more rockabilly feel, a la Delirious or Jack You Off. Brenda takes the lead vocals, and the prominent hand claps and juddering, building guitar flex create a sense of various peaks of interest in the song. There is some sustained keyboard solo around 1 minute 30, which gives Jesse a chance to show off some of his skills. Some nice bass runs at 2 minutes 20 add some nice texture, as Brenda declares there'll be no more wet dreams for her tonight. Lyrically, the track is very much within the style of the album, showcasing Brenda as a sexually confident extrovert, using various analogues for music to allude to sexual desires. It actually has a little bit of horny toad about it in the way it emanates upbeat adrenaline. Brenda knew that from the very first time she saw your teeth, you were the only one qualified to bite the beat. It doesn't quite have the addictive groove of some of the other tracks on the album, but Brenda's almost chanted backing vocals and the laughing at the end adds some fun into the mix. Bite the Beat was released as the second single from the album, but failed to chart.
Female, 3 times 2 equals 6.
Vanity 6's one and only album closes with their one and only ballad 3 times 2 equals 6, which was included as the B-side to the album's second single Bite the Beat, and the B-side to the album's fourth and final single Drive Me Wild. The track is synth-laden as most of the album, but interestingly has real drums instead of the Linn drum machine, and even more interesting is that Prince asked Des Dickerson to play them rather than himself, or even Morris Day. All the other instruments are played by Prince, including a subdued but cool little guitar solo near the end of the track. When compared to the ballads that Prince wrote for himself around this era, like Do Me Baby and International Lover, 3 times 2 equals 6 seems fairly weak in comparison. But if you didn't know that it was Prince who was behind it, you would probably be more forgiving. The lyrics seem to be about Vanity wanting to be in control of her relationships and not made a fool of by men. But the song's title and some of the lyrics have caused confusion, with some believing 3 times 2 equals 6 meaning the amount of breasts of all 3 members of the band, and some claiming it's all the nipples of all 3 members. The main theme seems to be loneliness and looking for love, but wanting to be in control. 3 times 2 equals 6 is an okay ballad, closing out an okay album. But with so many projects on the go at once, Prince was spreading himself thin, and it seems his other creation at the time were getting far superior material. And that's what time it is.
It was clear by this point that Prince was dedicated to the idea of writing, producing and creating new acts, and he had a great deal of real potential on his plate with his two acts Vanity 6 and The Time. Whilst this all changed greatly when Vanity left the Prince camp and Denise Matthews embarked on her new life, Prince's plans to continue the group actually remained fairly consistent, bringing in Apollonia to the group and simply renaming them Apollonia 6. The fact that at one point or another Prince considered some fairly important tracks for the Apollonia project, such as Manic Monday, 17 Days, Take Me With You, The Glamorous Life and G-Spot, displayed the obvious commitment and effort that he put into these projects. Denise Matthews as Vanity, despite her relatively short stay within the Prince camp, was a major influence upon him and could very easily have become a bigger star had she appeared in Purple Rain and released a second Prince-penned album. Denise continued to create music and then later began her religious work. Brenda and Susan continued on with Apollonia 6, both appearing in the Purple Rain movie. As an album, Vanity 6 is undoubtedly fun, with some real earworm grooves. Prince could not resist some of them and continued to utilise an instrumental version of Nasty Girl in his sampler sets right up until the very end of his career. Vanity was the perfect foil for Prince to promote a confident, seductive figure, and the bright, shining brilliance of the Minneapolis synth-driven funk was unmistakable. Considering the enormous workload Prince was under, he spent a lot of time and energy with Vanity 6, and it truly comes across not only as a really uplifting and enjoyable experience, but it undoubtedly set the stage and created the vital blueprint for an enormous array of girl groups throughout the 80s, 90s and beyond. The template has rarely been bettered.